I never thought my life would come to this. Hunched over a lukewarm cup of coffee, watching the sunrise bleed across the Manhattan skyline. It was a beautiful view, usually, but all I saw was a mocking reminder of everything I had lost. My name is Maya Rivers, and until a few weeks ago, I was riding high. At 33, I was the head of Rivers Clothing, the sustainable fashion empire my father had built. $150 million, a legacy. I poured my soul into it. I loved it. Then Daniel Hawthorne walked into my life, or rather sashayed in, dripping charm and old money. It was at some stuffy charity gala, the kind I usually dreaded. But Daniel, he looked at me like I was the only woman in the room. He said all the right things, made me laugh. He was the kind of man my mother always dreamed I'd marry. I was swept away. Within months, I was saying yes to his proposal. A fairy tale, right? My gut twisted. Even now, remembering the rose-tinted delusion, I wanted to scream at my past self. Judith Hawthorne, Daniel's mother, that was the first blaring siren I ignored. From the moment she laid eyes on me, she made it clear I wasn't good enough for her precious boy. I wasn't from old money. I wasn't some simpering socialite. I was, gasp, a woman with a career. She's a little intense, don't you think, darling? She'd purr to Daniel, loud enough for me to hear. I tried to ignore her, told myself I wasn't marrying her. Big mistake. Judith was a viper, a master of passive-aggressive barbs and thinly veiled disdain. After the wedding, the jabs turned into full-blown assaults on my character, my work, my very existence. Then, the suggestions started. Darling, don't you think Daniel could help with Rivers Clothing? He is a Hawthorne, after all. Business is in his blood. The idea of handing over my father's legacy, the company I had built, lived for, to a man who saw it as a hobby was unbearable. I pushed back, gently, trying to keep the peace. Daniel started echoing his mother's sentiments, the suggestions becoming demands. The subtle cracks in our marriage turned into gaping fissures. Then came the night. Everything exploded. Literally. 2 a.m. My phone ripped me from sleep. My assistant, Sarah, her voice hysterical. Maya! The factory! It's on fire! It's burning down. My blood turned to ice. I remember scrambling out of bed, the world spinning. Daniel, still half asleep, mumbled, "What's wrong?" "The factory, Daniel." "It's on fire!" I shrieked, grabbing my coat. His response, "It still makes my stomach churn." "Oh!" "That's a shame." "A shame?" My life was going up in flames, and he called it a shame? I raced to the factory, the sirens wailing a soundtrack to my nightmare. Flames engulfed the building, licking at the sky. Smoke choked the air. Firefighters battled the blaze, but it was no use. Half of the factory, my factory, was already gone. I stood there, numb, watching everything my father and I had built reduced to ash. The faces of my employees, their jobs, their livelihoods, all flashing before my eyes. I felt a hand on my shoulder, Daniel looking remarkably unfazed. "Well, that's that, I guess." Judith arrived a few hours later, her face grim. "Such a tragedy, dear. Faulty wiring, they say. Maybe it's a sign. Time to cut your losses, sell what's left, focus on other things." Other things? Like being a Hawthorne trophy wife? The rage that simmered within me threatened to boil over. That's when I knew. It wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. It was them. I could feel it in my bones. They thought they could break me. They thought they could take everything. They were wrong. Dead wrong. I would find out the truth. I would make them pay. I would rise from the ashes, and I would burn them with the fire of my vengeance. The following days were a blur of insurance adjusters, police reports, and tearful conversations with my employees. I tried to put on a brave face, assuring them that we would rebuild, that Rivers Clothing wasn't finished. But inside, I was a mess. The smell of smoke clung to everything, a constant reminder of what I had lost. Daniel and Judith hovered, offering comfort that felt more like gloating. Daniel kept pushing me to sell the remaining assets, saying it was the sensible thing to do. Judith would pat my hand, her eyes glittering with a cold satisfaction. "Don't worry, dear. We'll take care of you." I wanted to scream. I knew I couldn't go to the police with just a hunch. I needed proof. That's when I contacted Liam Carter. I'd gotten his name from a friend, a whispered recommendation for a private investigator who got things done. Liam was unassuming, mid-40s, with a sharp, intelligent gaze and a quiet intensity that put me at ease. I met him at a small, out-of-the-way coffee shop, pouring out my story. The fire, my suspicions, the Hawthorns. "You think they did this?" Liam asked, his voice low. "I know they did," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "I need proof. I need to make them pay," Liam nodded. "I'll look into it. CCTV footage, employee interviews, financial records. If there's something to find, I'll find it." The waiting was agony. Daniel became more distant, spending nights away from home, offering vague excuses about business meetings. Judith's presence became suffocating. She showed up unannounced, inspecting my every move, offering advice that felt like veiled threats. "You look tired, dear. Are you sure you're up to this?" she'd say, her eyes glinting. I knew they were watching me, testing me, waiting for me to break, but I refused to give them the satisfaction. 2 weeks passed. Finally, Liam called. "I need to see you. It's important." We met at the same coffee shop. Liam slid a laptop across the table. "The CCTV footage from the night of the fire. Take a look." The grainy video showed 2 figures entering the factory hours before the blaze. Mark and Elena, 2 of my most trusted employees. People the first considered friends. I watched in horror as they fiddled with machinery, sprinkling liquid from a canister across the floor. "Arson," Liam said, his voice flat. It wasn't faulty wiring. It was deliberate. I felt sick. "But why? Why would they do this?" Liam's expression darkened. "That's where it gets interesting." I spoke to Mark and Elena. They denied everything at first. But when I showed them the footage, they cracked. He paused, letting the words sink in. They admitted they were paid to start the fire. My blood ran cold. Paid? By who? I already knew the answer, but hearing it aloud was like a punch to the gut. Liam hesitated. Judith and Daniel. The world tilted on its axis. My husband and his mother had conspired to destroy my business, to ruin my life. The betrayal was a physical pain, a searing wound in my soul. "You're sure?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Positive." Bank records show large, unexplained transfers from an account linked to Daniel. Mark and Elena received those payments just days before the fire. I sat there, numb, trying to process the information. Anger, hot and blinding, surged through me. They had taken everything I loved, everything I had worked for, and burned it to the ground. "What do I do now?" I asked, my voice shaking. Liam's eyes hardened. "We build a case. We make them pay." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal meetings, evidence gathering, and a constant, gnawing fear that I was about to lose everything. Liam and my lawyer, Sandra Torres, worked tirelessly, piecing together the puzzle. Sandra was a force of nature, a sharp, ruthless attorney who specialized in high-profile cases. She was expensive, but worth every penny. "This is airtight," she said, after reviewing the evidence. "We've got them dead to rights. They won't get away with this." The evidence mounted, emails between Judith and Daniel discussing their plan, phone records showing late-night calls to Mark and Elena, a paper trail of bribes paid to other employees to keep quiet. I didn't confront Daniel or Judith. Not yet. I played the part of the oblivious wife, smiling and nodding, while secretly gathering my forces. Every time I sat across from Daniel at dinner, every time I endured one of Judith's smug remarks, I wanted to explode. But I held my tongue. knowing that the longer they thought they had me fooled, the harder the blow would land. One evening, I came home to find Judith waiting for me in my living room, sipping tea like she owned the place. Daniel was nowhere to be seen. "Maya," she said, her smile thin and cold, "I thought it was time we had a little chat, woman to woman." I forced myself to stay calm. "About what?" "Oh, she said, setting her teacup down with a deliberate clink. "Life choices. The future. You've been through so much lately, the fire, the stress. It's all very unfortunate." My fists clenched. "It is. Of course you will," she said smoothly. "You've always been so determined. But sometimes determination isn't enough. Sometimes you have to know when to let go, don't you think? It's time to consider selling what's left of your company. It's a burden, Maya. Daniel can help you start fresh." The mask was gone. The venom dripped from her words. They wanted me to give up, to surrender. "Thank you for your concern, Judith," I said, my voice cold. "But I'm not giving up. Not now." "Not ever." Her smile faltered, and I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, anger, maybe even fear. "Well," she said, rising and smoothing her skirt, "I hope you know what you're doing. For your sake." She left, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. They were getting desperate. They knew I wasn't going to back down. A week later, Liam delivered the final blow. A recording of a conversation between Judith and Daniel, discussing the fire in detail. They talked about paying off the employees, staging the scene, their plans to force me into selling the company. It was all there, clear as day. "It's over," Liam said, handing me the file. "This is the nail in the coffin." I nodded, my heart pounding. "It's time." Sandra wasted no time filing the lawsuit. The charges were serious: arson, conspiracy, fraud. The media went wild. "Fashion empire scandal," the headline screamed. Photos of Judith and Daniel were plastered everywhere. They denied everything, of course. But the evidence was overwhelming. When the summons arrived, Daniel finally confronted me. He stormed into the kitchen, his face red with rage. "What the hell is this, Maya?" he demanded, waving the papers in my face. "You're suing me? Your own husband?" I stood my ground, meeting his glare with unwavering resolve. "You're not my husband, Daniel." "Not anymore. A husband doesn't destroy his wife's life for money. A husband doesn't conspire with his mother to burn down everything she's worked for." His face twisted with rage. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," I said, my voice icy. "I have the proof, Daniel. The emails, the phone calls, the money transfers. I know everything." For a moment, he looked stunned, like he hadn't expected me to fight back. Then his expression hardened. "You're making a mistake, Maya. You're going to regret this." "No," I said, my voice steady. "The only mistake I made was trusting you." He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I felt a strange mix of fear and relief. The fight was far from over, but I was no longer afraid. I was in control. The courtroom was a circus. The media was out in full force. Cameras flashing, reporters scribbling furiously. Everyone wanted a piece of the Hawthorne betrayal story. Daniel and Judith sat at the defense table, their faces masks of carefully controlled composure. Judith occasionally whispered to Daniel, her sharp features betraying flickers of worry. Daniel avoided looking at me. Sandra began the case with a powerful opening statement. "This is a story of betrayal, greed, and the deliberate destruction of a woman's life's work. We will prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Judith and Daniel Hawthorne conspired to destroy Maya Rivers' business for their own gain." The prosecution laid out the evidence, piece by piece. The CCTV footage, the bank records, the emails, the audio recording. It was a damning indictment. When Mark and Elena took the stand, testifying about their roles in the arson, it was difficult to keep my emotions in check. They admitted they had been pressured and paid by Judith and Daniel. The defense tried to discredit me, painting me as a cold, career-obsessed woman who had neglected her husband and antagonized his family. Judith's lawyer even suggested that I was fabricating the accusations out of spite, but Sandra tore their arguments to shreds. When it was my turn to testify, I felt a wave of fear wash over me. I took a deep breath and faced the jury. My father built this company with his blood, sweat, and tears, I began, my voice steady. When he passed, I vowed to carry on his legacy. I trusted Daniel and his family. I believed they wanted what was best for me. But they didn't. They saw my success as a threat, something to control, and if necessary, destroy. I looked directly at Judith and Daniel. They thought they could break me. But they underestimated me. The courtroom was silent. The jury deliberated for hours. When they finally returned, the air was electric. On the charges of arson, conspiracy, and fraud, we find the defendants guilty. The room erupted. Relief washed over me. Judith and Daniel sat frozen, their faces pale. The judge sentenced them to lengthy prison terms. The employees involved in the arson also faced legal consequences. The court awarded me full ownership of the Hawthorne family's properties as restitution. It was a symbolic victory, a way to ensure that their ill-gotten power would no longer overshadow me. Rebuilding my company wasn't easy. The financial loss was immense. The emotional scars ran deep. But with the support of my employees and loyal clients, I poured my heart into restoring what had been lost. In time, we not only recovered, but thrived. The fire had been meant to destroy me, but it had forged something stronger. My story became a beacon of hope for others facing betrayal and hardship. Looking back, I see now that the fire wasn't just the end of one chapter. It was the beginning of another. Judith and Daniel tried to strip me of everything, but they couldn't take away my resilience, my determination, or my integrity. My father used to say, "Maya, true strength is not about avoiding the flames. It's about rising from the ashes." I understand that now. This is my story. It's about finding the courage to rebuild, to fight for what's right, and to never let anyone take away your power. It's about resilience, and it's a reminder that no matter how dark things get, there's always a way to rise. This version aims to hit the emotional beats harder and create a more dramatic, personal narrative. It needs further fleshing out to hit the target word count, focusing on expanding scenes and character reactions to truly immerse the reader. The gavel slammed, the word guilty echoing in the cavernous courtroom. I barely registered the gasps, the murmurs, the frenzy that erupted around me. All I saw were their faces. Judith, her carefully constructed mask of composure shattered, revealing the raw, ugly fury beneath. Daniel, his eyes vacant, the golden boy facade crumbling into dust. It was over. They had lost. I had won. But victory felt hollow, a cold, empty space where joy should have been. As I walked out of the courtroom, the flash of cameras blinding, the barrage of questions deafening, I felt utterly alone. The weight of the past months, the betrayal, the fear, the constant pressure, all crashed down on me. I retreated to my apartment, a sanctuary that had become a battleground. Every corner held a memory, stolen moments with Daniel that now tasted like poison. Judith's judgmental gaze lingering in the air. I couldn't escape them, not yet. They were ghosts that haunted my every waking moment. Sleep offered no respite. Nightmares plagued me, the flames licking at the factory, the triumphant glint in Judith's eyes, Daniel's apathetic shrug. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, the smell of smoke clinging to my hair. Even simple tasks became triggers. Opening a closet reminded me of the clothes that had been ruined in the fire. Designs I'd spent months perfecting, now lost forever. A casual conversation about business would send me spiraling, replaying every meeting, every decision, wondering if I had missed the signs, if I could have prevented this. Liam tried to be supportive, checking in regularly, offering a comforting presence. But even his quiet strength couldn't fill the void. He was a friend, an ally, but he couldn't understand the depths of my pain. "You did it, Maya," he'd say, his voice gentle. "You brought them to justice. You can finally move on." But moving on felt impossible. How could I move on when everything I had known, everything I had trusted, had been ripped away? How could I rebuild when the foundations of my life had been poisoned? The hardest part was the silence from Daniel. He didn't call, didn't write, didn't even attempt to explain. He simply vanished, swallowed by the vastness of the prison system, leaving me to grapple with the wreckage of our marriage. Sometimes I'd find myself staring at our wedding photos, searching for a clue, a sign that I had missed. Was he always this calculating, this cruel? Or had Judith warped him, twisted him into something he wasn't? The questions swirled in my mind, a constant, tormenting cycle. I knew I needed help, more than Liam could offer. I finally sought therapy, a decision that felt like both an admission of weakness and a step towards healing. Dr. Evans was patient and kind, a calm voice in the storm of my emotions. She helped me unpack the layers of trauma, to understand the patterns of manipulation and control that had defined my relationship with the Hawthorns. "You were targeted, Maya," she said, her voice gentle. "They saw your strength, your independence, and they felt threatened. They wanted to control you, to break you down." Her words resonated. I had always prided myself on my strength, my ability to overcome adversity, but I had allowed myself to be vulnerable, to trust the wrong people. "You need to grieve, Maya," Dr. Evans continued. "Grieve for the loss of your business, for the loss of your marriage, for the loss of the future you had imagined, but also grieve for the woman you were before all of this happened. She's still there, but she needs time to heal." The grieving process was agonizing. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed, when the weight of my sorrow was unbearable. But slowly, with Dr. Evans' guidance, I began to piece myself back together. I started spending more time with my close friends, reconnecting with the people who had always been there for me. They offered unwavering support, a safe space to vent, to cry, to simply be myself without judgment. I also threw myself back into my work, focusing on rebuilding River's clothing. It was a daunting task, but it gave me a sense of purpose, a reason to get up in the morning. I decided to honor my father's legacy by making River's clothing even more sustainable, more ethical, more committed to its values. I wanted to create something beautiful and meaningful, something that would make him proud. The first few months after the trial were a blur of legal paperwork, insurance claims, and endless meetings with contractors. The factory was a wasteland, a charred skeleton of its former self. The task of rebuilding felt overwhelming, a mountain too high to climb, but I refused to be defeated. I remembered my father's words, "Maya, never give up. No matter how hard things get, always keep fighting." I gathered my remaining employees, the loyal ones who had stood by me through everything. They were a small but dedicated team, and their unwavering support gave me the strength to keep going. "We can do this," I said, my voice filled with determination. "We can rebuild River's clothing, bigger and better than ever before." We started small, renting a temporary workspace, salvaging what we could from the wreckage. We worked long hours, pouring our heart and soul into every design, every stitch. The media followed our progress closely, documenting our struggles and triumphs. The public's response was overwhelming. People rallied behind us, sending messages of support, donating money, and buying our clothing. The attention was both a blessing and a curse. It helped raise awareness about our brand and generate sales, but it also put a spotlight on my personal life, dredging up the painful details of the trial. I tried to ignore the negativity, focusing on the positive messages, the stories of people who had been inspired by my resilience. One day, I received a letter from a young woman who had lost her own business in a fire. She wrote that my story had given her hope, that it had shown her that it was possible to overcome even the most devastating setbacks. Her words moved me deeply. I realized that my fight wasn't just about me anymore. It was about inspiring others, about showing them that they too could rise from the ashes. As the factory slowly took shape, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. We were building something new, something stronger, something more meaningful than what had been lost. I made sure to involve my employees in every step of the process, giving them a voice, empowering them to contribute their ideas. They were more than just workers, they were partners in this new venture. We used sustainable materials, eco-friendly practices, and ethical labor standards. We created a clothing line that was not only beautiful but also responsible. On the day the new factory officially opened, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. I stood before my employees, my friends, my family, and I spoke from the heart. "This is not just a factory," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "It's a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of resilience, and a tribute to my father's legacy. We have been through hell and back, but we have emerged stronger, more determined, and more united than ever before." The crowd erupted in applause. Tears streamed down my face. I had done it. I had rebuilt River's clothing. But more importantly, I had rebuilt myself. Years passed. River's clothing thrived, becoming a global leader in sustainable fashion. I traveled the world, speaking at conferences, advocating for ethical business practices, and inspiring others to follow their dreams. I remained single, focusing on my work and my personal growth. I had learned a valuable lesson about trust, about the importance of choosing my relationships wisely. Judith and Daniel remained in prison, serving their sentences. I never visited them, never spoke to them. They were a chapter in my life that I had closed. One day, Liam came to see me. He looked older, a little more worn, but his eyes still held that quiet intensity. "I'm leaving, Maya," he said. "I'm moving to a small town in Montana. I need a change of pace." I was sad to see him go, but I understood. He had carried the weight of my case for so long, and he deserved to find peace. "Thank you, Liam," I said, my voice sincere. "You saved my life. I'll never forget what you did for me." He smiled. "You saved your own life, Maya. I just helped you see it." We said our goodbyes, and I watched as he walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I knew I would never forget him. The man who had helped me uncover the truth. The man who had become a true friend. I continued to see Dr. Evans, even after I had fully recovered from the trauma. She had become a trusted confidant, someone who understood me on a deep level. "You've come a long way, Maya," she said one day during a session. "You've faced unimaginable challenges, and you've emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before." I smiled. "I still have my moments," I admitted, "but I'm learning to live with the scars. They're a part of me now. They're a reminder of what you've overcome," she said. "They're a testament to your strength." I took a deep breath. "I'm finally ready to move on," I said. "To find peace, to find happiness, to find love again." A few months later, I met someone. His name was Alex, and he was a writer. He was kind, intelligent, and compassionate. He listened to my story without judgment, offering support and understanding. He didn't try to fix me, didn't try to change me. He simply loved me for who I was, scars and all. We fell in love slowly, gradually, building a strong foundation of trust and respect. He was my safe harbor, my rock, my partner in life. One evening, as we sat on the beach, watching the sunset, Alex turned to me and took my hand. "Maya," he said, his voice filled with love, "will you marry me?" Tears welled up in my eyes. I had never thought I would find love again, but here it was, shining bright in the darkness. "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." As I looked into his eyes, I knew that I had finally found my happy ending. I had overcome the darkness, I had risen from the ashes, and I had found love again. My journey had been long and arduous, but it had led me to this moment, to this place of peace, happiness, and love. And I knew, with absolute certainty that I was finally free. Years later, I sit on the veranda of our small beach house in Malibu, the rhythmic crash of the waves, a soothing melody against the backdrop of my thoughts. Alex is inside, probably wrestling with his latest manuscript, his brow furrowed in concentration. Life is good, beautiful even, but it's a beauty born from ashes, a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of pain and resilience. I trace the delicate silver necklace I wear, a gift from Alex on our wedding day. It's a phoenix, its wings outstretched in eternal flight, a constant reminder of the fire and the soaring that followed. I'm no longer defined by the Hawthorne betrayal. It's a part of my story, yes, a defining chapter, but it doesn't control me. I've learned to embrace my scars, to see them not as blemishes, but as proof of my strength, as reminders of the battles I've won. River's clothing continues to flourish, a beacon of sustainability and ethical practices in a cutthroat industry. I've stepped back from the day-to-day operations, entrusting the reins to a team of passionate and dedicated individuals who share my vision. I now focus on mentoring young entrepreneurs, particularly women, empowering them to build their own empires, to shatter glass ceilings, and to never, ever let anyone dim their light. Sometimes, I catch glimpses of Judith and Daniel in the news, brief updates on their lives behind bars. They've become shadows, faded remnants of a past I've mostly left behind. I don't feel hatred towards them anymore, just a profound sense of pity. They're trapped in their own self-made prisons, while I'm basking in the freedom they tried to steal. Occasionally, I receive letters from Mark and Elena, the employees who set the fire. They express remorse, seeking forgiveness. It's difficult to offer it, knowing the pain they inflicted, but I try. I understand that they were victims too, pawns in a game far bigger than themselves. I hope they found redemption, some measure of peace in the aftermath of their actions. Alex emerges from the house, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He holds 2 glasses of wine, the setting sun glinting off the crimson liquid. Thinking about them again? He asks, his voice gentle, knowing. I nod, sighing. It's hard to forget, you know? It's like a phantom limb. I can still feel the ache sometimes. He sits beside me, taking my hand. His touch is warm, comforting. But you're not that person anymore, Maya. You've rebuilt your life, your heart. You've created something beautiful out of the ruins. He raises his glass. To resilience, he says. To strength. And to the woman who inspires me every single day. I clink my glass against his, a genuine smile gracing my lips. To new beginnings, I reply. As we watch the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and purple, I feel a sense of profound gratitude. I'm not the same woman I was before the fire. I'm stronger, wiser, more resilient. I've learned that true strength doesn't lie in avoiding the flames, but in rising from the ashes, in embracing the scars, and in finding the courage to love and live again. The waves continue to crash, a constant, rhythmic reminder of the ebb and flow of life, of the storms that inevitably come, and the strength it takes to weather them. I close my eyes, inhaling the salty air, and I know with unwavering certainty that I am finally, truly, at peace. This is my story, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can ignite, and from the ashes of destruction, new life can bloom. It's a story I'll continue to tell, not with bitterness or resentment, but with a quiet pride, a fierce determination, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. Because even the deepest scars can become beautiful works of art, testaments to the battles we've fought and the triumphs we've earned. And that, I believe, is a story worth sharing. This epilogue provides a sense of closure while highlighting the themes of resilience, healing, and finding love again. It emphasizes the transformation Maya underwent and leaves the reader with a message of hope This should bring the story to a satisfying conclusion within the target word count range.